Let's take a look at a problem from your lab assignment. This is from section 5.1. It says to find the sum, and there's a sigma notation here. The sum, as j goes from 3 to 5, of this expression, 1 divided by j squared minus 3. So the summation of the first n numbers of the sequence is represented by this. I got this summation calculator from mathisfun.com. You can Google summation calculator and you'll see something like this. And if you can see that my expression here, my index is n. That's different from the problem that we have here. My index is n, and my n starts with 1 and it goes to 10, and then my function inside is n. And then so I have a list of the things that I'm adding up in this box. So I'm basically adding up 1 through 10. Now if I change it to something like x or n squared, then I would add up the first 10 squares of the numbers. So that's 1, 4, 9, 16, etc. I can go with a different starting point. I can start with 5 to 10, and so that starts with 25, and then 36, 49, 64, 81, and 100. And so one of the stories from a lot of math classes is that Leonard Euler, when he was in first grade or something, I don't know if this is true, but the teacher, he was bored in his math class, so the teacher told him to add up the numbers between 1 and 100. And so he had a way of adding up all these numbers from 1 to 100, and then he got the result that was correct in just a few minutes. And so anyways, you can Google Euler, that's E-U-L-E-R, and the sum, or adding up the numbers from 1 to 100, and see what kind of story you get out of that. Back to our problem here. The sum of the first n numbers of a sequence is represented by this. Some I is the index, and so inside of your function you should have your index being represented there. And then you just replace that index variable with a starting point here. In this case it's 1, and then you end at whatever the ending point is, whatever n is. So I is called the index of the summation, and it's called the upper limit, and 1 is the lower limit of the sum. So applying the given sum here, we have the index is going to be j as the index of the summation. The upper limit of the summation is 5, and the lower limit of the summation is 3, so it starts with 3. So now that we have the parts figured out, we know that the function inside is 1 divided by j squared minus 3. And so if we put 3 in there, we're going to have 1 divided by 3 squared minus 3. And then so we continue on with 3, and then the next number is 4. So the next term is going to be 1 divided by 4 squared minus 3. And then finally we have 1 divided by 5 squared minus 3. So what is that? Well, if you just do the calculations, this is 9 minus 3 is 6, so that's 1/6. We have 16 minus 3 is 13, and then 25 minus 3 is 22. So now we just have to add these up. Well, if you're good at adding fractions, that's great. I'm going to use Wolfram Alpha to add fractions. 1 divided by 6 plus 1 divided by 13 plus 1 divided by 22. And so that's, as a fraction, it's 124 divided by 429. So 124 divided by 429. Alright, so that's how you do a sum.